Hey guys, what's up? It's Talon. Today I'm going to be coaching a Riven player who told me before the coaching started that he is the best jungle in NA, but he is hard stuck Emerald. And so I'm going to kind of talk to you guys about and show a video where someone feels that they're not the problem in their games, and I'm going to try to kind of showcase how a lot of times, even when people view themselves as not the problem, they have good stats, they feel like they're carrying a lot of their games. There's still a lot you can do to climb. There's a lot that this guy actually wasn't doing that he didn't realize, and so I'm going to go into that. So initially, he did not have any replays to show me, so we did a live game. I coached him through the live game, already noticed a lot of his mistakes, and then what I'm going to show you guys is me reviewing that replay of the game, talking about what I was telling him to do, why I was telling him to do what he did, the mistakes that he was making, and just the general like things he should improve on. And I was very straightforward with him, telling him like I think he is the problem. I don't think that it's like this, teammates or anything like that. There's a lot of other issues as to why he can't climb, in my opinion, and he was totally like responsive to that. He wasn't like, denying it. He totally was receptive to the feedback, and so I appreciate that. I'm not like having this title of the video or nothing to like flame him. Just kind of want to acknowledge that a lot of people feel like they aren't the problem, but there's a lot of things that this guy could be doing that I feel like would make him able to climb significantly faster and easier. So that said, let's get right into the video. And as always, guys, if you're interested in coaching yourself, it's just $15 for an hour of coaching. We'll typically go over 1 to 2 replays, and then I'll write out some notes for you at the end, helping you improve. The link to my Discord is in the description if you want to DM me on there. So yeah, now let's get into the video. Okay, so I already found your most obvious problem. Like, you said you're following the things in my video, so that's why I'm gonna like, all right, you are not following the things in my video because. Did you watch my video yet? My getting rank 5 video? I'm just curious.
I watched that last night.
Okay, so you should know what I'm going to tell you then, based on this.
No.
Okay.
Oh, too many chance.
Yeah, you're playing like 40. Like, you look at your Riven win rate. Your Riven win rate is 66%. Yeah. Your overall win rate is 45%.
I get really bored.
I get it. I get it. You get bored, and like, if you're here, if you want the coaching to like have fun, like I can coach you on how to have fun, but I don't think that's what you want. I think you want to win, right? Like you want to climb. That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, if you want to have fun and you don't want to get mad at your teammates all the time, you got to stick to a couple champions. So like right now, if you're willing to do it, I think we should decide on 3 champions for you to play in jungle right now. Like I think that will actually help. And if you literally like just like for 2 weeks, just only play those 3 champions and then see if anything changes alongside the other tips that we'll give. But like, if you choose 3 jungle champions, I really think already like that'll be a big thing that will help you a lot.
Bro, I got a nasty Draven jungle, bro.
Okay, buddy. All right. I mean, okay. So I'm already identifying a lot of problems here, and I haven't even watched your gameplay yet. We're playing Draven jungle, and we're playing way too many champions. Yeah. I don't think we should be like again. If you want to have fun, go have fun. Do what you want. I'm here telling you what to do to win. Like that's where everything's going to come from, so I'm just going to acknowledge that, and I'm going to stop acknowledging that now so it's not repetitive. Don't play Draven jungle, don't play all these champions, choose 3 real junglers to play that you win a lot on, that you're good on, and then play those champions, and queue only jungle, don't queue other roles, just queue jungle, and then queue a secondary role, always have the same secondary role so that you can only really worry about those 2 roles. Like, if you really want to get good, you should, before we even go into replay, tell me what those are going to be, what your first role and your second role are going to be, and your 3 champions for your first role. Okay guys, so he ended up deciding on Viego, Riven, and Vi, and then after that we went over a live gameplay because he didn't have any replays to show me, and then I'm going to show you guys me reviewing the replay after the live coaching that I did. I'm not going to include the live coaching because it would make it very long, and during the review of the replay I talk about a lot of the things that I told him to do in the game and just talk about his decision making and what was wrong, what was right, that type of stuff. So now let's get into that part of the video. So initially, like the first thing is we want to know where we should path. Typically you start red side if you don't know where to path. In this game you're pathing towards set Aatrox. That's fine because set has good gank setup. But if you're pathing towards say like Garen Maokai top lane matchup, there's no real ability to kill those people. It's 2 very tanky champions who are both, can't really kill them or anything like that. They don't have like, if you're like at the Garen side, you don't really have great gank setup from Garen, so there's not really much you can do. So like in that scenario, you would start blue side so you can path towards bot side and play towards your bot lane in like a scenario like that. Because you have, again, like set here, he can help you set up ganks, so it's fine to go in this scenario. Additionally, remember we talked about going the red ward, warding our red side, then warding our blue side, then going to red. And I'm just going to talk over some of the things that we talked about when I actually coached you through this live game because so it's on video, so you can look back on it again, obviously. And also, do you know how to pause the replay when I tell you to?
Yeah.
Okay, so just pause this real quick. So there's two different types of pathing on your red side that you can do, and there's benefits to both of them, and it's okay for you to choose either. But I'm going to tell you why I prefer starting my red buff rather than starting my Krugs. A lot of people don't. A lot of good junglers start Krugs, so it's like, this is up to you. The reason that I start on my red side, or my red buff first, it makes my initial first clear slower, so I get to scuttle later. Typically, if I start red side, the enemy will also be red side, which means I won't meet them at the scuttle, so I don't need to be on the scuttle as soon as the scuttle spawns. I'd rather full clear my red buff, then go Krugs, then go Raptors, and then go to my blue side, clear all of my blue side, and then go get the scuttle after that. The reason I do this is because
But if you're gonna do that, then
yeah,
like, wouldn't you want to do Krugs, then
so I'm going to explain the reason.
red buff, and then move to blue
So
side?
the reason you do red buff first, and again, not everyone prefers this, because again, your first clear is faster with Krugs, but your second clear is worse if you start Krugs. The reason is because red buff takes 2 minutes and 30 seconds to spawn. The Krugs and any small one takes 1 minute and 50 seconds. So if you clear the red buff first, and then 20 seconds later you clear your Krugs, now they're going to spawn again on the second spawn within 20 seconds. Okay guys, so there was an issue because he got a call, and I obviously did not want to show the phone number that was calling him. Basically, to reiterate what I ended up explaining to him, if you clear your red buff first, then on the second clear, your red buff spawns closer to when your Krugs and your Raptors will spawn, which allows you to clear all of them at one point rather than having to go clear your Krugs and then wait a long time for your red buff to respawn. There's benefits to both decisions, but I typically start my red buff for this reason. But yeah, let's get back into the video now. Okay, going back into it. So your second clear is going to be.
You want me to keep this tab up, or
what? Yeah, for now we're just pausing. I'm just explaining, and then we'll like start again after. You can go through your first clear, I suppose. But that's why we're starting red side, or starting red buff, is because then our second clear, they spawn closer to each other. So does that make sense? They spawn within 20 seconds of each other instead of 40 seconds. But our second clear, we can clear them all at once, and then we have time after we clear all of those to go to blue side or look for a gank. In a situation like this where we get invaded, that's why we want to hover or hold our smite until we last hit something, because then you have the smite to heal like you healed here. Whereas normally you were smiting your red buff as soon as you started clearing it, and then you wouldn't have had that heal, and you would probably end up dying or not being able to last hit a red buff if it was a jungler trying to steal your red buff, for example. Which is why as soon as a camp gets to right below 600 health, you want to smite it immediately rather than how you were doing it, where you were smiting at the start of clearing it. So I assume that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then here, again, we saw, okay, I also pause for a second.
Yep.
Click on the top right, the three little line, like dashes, like and then click the blue vision thing on Fog of War. Now we only see what you actually see in the game, which is why we did this. Okay. And so we see that we actually saw Lee Sin invading us due to our ward, and so you just got a kill, you had a good power spec here, so now you can go again, you can start the replay. And so, again, I was coaching you through this game, so what I told you then, when you wanted to normally go to your blue side after recalling, I told you instead, go clear the scuttle, and then go to his blue. And the reason is because you already had your boots here, so you have a power spike to win a fight. Like, you just killed someone, so you're going to have a better back, whereas he's probably not going to have back yet, or he's not going to have as good of items as you. So you can fight him because you have an item advantage, and because Riven's a really good early game fighter. So then he ends up going for a gank here, and again, he hasn't bought anything, so we're a lot stronger. We know he's going to go for scuttle, so we sweep here to make sure he can't see us, which I told you to sweep here, and then we can see him.
That was amazing play, bro.
Yeah.
I would not have played it like that.
And that's the point. He messes up his flash, so even though you were lagging here, which is why it was kind of like weird mechanically, but we end up killing him. Now we killed him. I tell you, no, go to his blue buff right away. The reason we want to go to his blue buff first is because he only has a limited death timer. He's going to spawn. You see how he just respawned now. And so we need to clear his blue buff before he gets back to his blue buff. That way we're not contested on it and we're not going to possibly die. Because the scuttle isn't as dangerous to fight over, whereas the blue buff is on his side of the map, so it's a lot more dangerous. And then we're going to fight here. We have our upgraded smite. So again, the reason you have upgraded smite is because you just smited his camp. So now you're going to have an 800 smite. He's probably only smited once at that point. So he only has a 600 smite, so you can win any smite battle at that point. Does that also make sense?
Yeah.
And then we have our ultimate. He doesn't have ultimate. We can fight again because of the level diff. So all of this is because of like the things we were telling you in the game, allowing you to get that big advantage. And it's not a typical thing that happens to react to an invade like this. But when it does happen, that's how you can respond. However, it's important to keep in mind you can't always invade him when he invades you like that. Sometimes you're going to get invaded, and there's nothing you can do about it because your lanes are losing. So if your lanes in this game were like losing really hard and they didn't have prio, do you know what prio is?
Priority.
Yeah, like they have the push in their lane, or like they're like winning their lane, like that type of thing. If your lanes didn't have
Yeah.
prio, then you couldn't have done that, because then your laners wouldn't be able to help you, and that their laners would have been able to help you. So is that also clear?
Yeah.
So that's how you respond to an invade when you do have prio. And now we just have huge tempo because we killed him, we have better items, now we can just clear our whole camps, and then we just focus on clearing. Again, I was telling you, no, go clear your wolves here, but for some reason you cleared blue first. If you clear your wolves first, it's just less time wasted, because now you have to go all the way up here, then you have to walk back down. Whereas you just, in the scenario where you clear your wolves first, you're just walking straight up, and then you have a more clear path to gank the Aatrox quicker. Whereas you're going to see it's going to take you more time to end up actually getting towards the Aatrox because of how you do this. Does that make sense as well?
Yeah.
Okay. And in this scenario, we're going to end up just going and farming our red side because there's no real gank opportunity, and you have Cleaver here, so you end up bagging for Cleaver. Again, we'll talk about the proper build. I'll ask my friend about that build, and then we'll figure that out. But okay, so for those wondering, I DM'd my friend, who again, he's been top 1 Riven. He's an amazing Riven player. His name's Sean. He's sometimes in my stream, sometimes I play with him as well. And this is the build that he recommended. He also showed me a top lane build and another jungle build with crit as well, but this was kind of the one that I thought would be the most consistent, the best to play. He also makes sure to mention that Trinity Force and Mortal Reminder are going to be situational items that differ depending on the game, and the blue runes are for the extra mobility. If you are a different type of Riven player, you prefer to go for a more standard rune set, you could go Precision Tree, with probably, I would say, either Brutal, Triumph, and then Giant Slayer in the second rune, and then the last rune can be whatever situationally works, and then your fourth rune could be Sudden Impact. That's like a more standard kind of rune thing, but this one definitely, he says, is very good, so definitely try that out, try out this build, and I think it'll work very well for you guys. I'll DM you that after. And either way, we have our item power spike, so we recall, which is good. And now we're just extremely strong. You have boots and you have cleaver already, so you should pretty much win every fight. And because you're so ahead and your team is also winning lane, we want to fight at whatever objective the enemy is at, because we know that we can win the fight most likely. So that's why we end up going for dragon here, because their Lee Sin also showed that he's on the dragon side in a little bit, which we'll see. So. And I'm also gonna write down notes over this. Yeah, it's gonna be like a lot longer, but it's not a big deal. I'm just gonna go stream after this though.
You're gonna stream?
Yeah.
On what?
Twitch and YouTube.
Like you're gonna stream both Twitch and YouTube, like right after?
Yeah, at the same time.
Or what if I just hop on? I'm gonna just watch you.
I mean, you can watch my stream after, yeah. I'm sick though. I have strep throat, so it kind of sucks. But that's why I didn't stream this morning. But it is what it is.
Did you say you hadn't uploaded a video in 7 months?
Yeah, apart from the last 2 videos that I recently uploaded, I haven't uploaded in 7 months before that.
Why not?
I just got bored much. I still stream a lot. Like, I stream on Twitch every day, even during that time period. I just didn't upload on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay, but back into the game. Again, you ended up going for a fight here. Instead of going for that fight on blue side, we should just immediately be going to the objective. You're too focused on these fights that don't actually matter when you should have been going for the objective here, because now the Lee Sin ends up getting to the objective at the same time as you, and he gets the scuttle. If you went there first, you would at least have scuttle vision, if not just have gotten the entire objective while he was wasting his time. So you're basically just wasting time for no reason. Now you finally start it because your team is here, and this is a good time to start it. If their support wasn't showing on the map, you wouldn't want to start it because your support and your ADC are bot lanes. So say that their support, you didn't know where he was, you wouldn't want to start it because then you might have a 4v3. But since we see their support on the map, we can start it. And now, another thing, you wanted to go drop these immediately, but plates don't fall until 7 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's better to farm your camps first if you will still have enough time to go get the drop it and get plates afterwards. Because every second that your camp is on the map is another second that your next camp's not going to respawn, and is therefore losing you gold just by it existing on the map. Which is why we want to clear these camps as soon as they're, available to clear. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas again, these plates will be here until 7:30, so as long as we get it by 7:30, we're fine. It also gives us a time where we see Lee Sin now, so we know that we're counter ganking. Lee Sin's here. Their Aatrox goes really aggressive, so we end up getting a very free kill. Your lag here made you not get this kill. That's fine. Where you're not going to be lagging when you're not in a call with me. Like, that's a unique thing. Lee Sin ends up going for a dumb gank here. Again, plat player things. Free kill. We'll take it. I guess you don't end up killing, but like we still got the turret, so it's like fine. And now, again, we're looking for an invade here. Once you see that there's no chance to kill, you should be looking for an invade. We see that there's no Krugs up, that's fine. You go check his other camps, you go and end up going here. This is perfectly fine because you know he's on his top side, so you can just go invade. Again, you were looking for a gank here, I told you no, go Gromp. The reason we want to go Gromp, same thing. We're not going to get the Gromp if we go gank first. If we gank second, we get the Gromp and then we can also still get a gank off. Whereas like you're always like, oh, I need to kill as fast as possible, I need to kill as fast as possible. It's okay to wait a little longer if we're getting things that are guaranteed. Camps are guaranteed, kills aren't guaranteed, is like the simplest way to think about it. And we knew where Lee Sin was, so we knew that he would not be there in time. You end up getting a kill, you would have got the kill if you weren't lagging again. Doesn't matter. Now we should go farm our camps and then we can recall again. So again, pretty much the thing that I coach every jungler on, it's always their problem, is always efficiency. You're super focused on fights, and you just shouldn't be. You need to be focusing on your camps, and then it's very simple. The time that it's important to actually focus on getting kills and getting priority is when objectives are spawning, which is why later in the game I was telling you to go fight because there was that Baron up, right? But at this point in the game, there's no objective to fight over. And even if you do get kills, let's say a hypothetical scenario, you get kills. The more kills you get, the more gold you're worth. So even if you die once, you're already giving up a lot of that gold back. But you're not worth more gold by clearing camps. So like, clearing your camps is only beneficial to you, and it's more guaranteed. Again.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So again, you don't clear your wolves here right away. You're looking for a fight, and I told you then, like, go farm this, you know, and that's why you listen again. But if I wasn't telling you this, you probably would have tried to go for some dumb fight. Again, you're waiting. You should just be on your wolves. It's not a big deal. But just take your wolves before you take these other camps in the future. It's going to save you a little bit of time. But yeah, like, clearing these camps, you're not worth more gold. And you're getting guaranteed gold. Whereas you're taking a lot of these dumb fights, and I can guarantee if I wasn't coaching you, you were going to be taking even more dumb fights here, 100%. So, like, that's the main thing to keep in mind. We look at our map now.
Like,
yeah, go ahead.
If we keep farming all these camps and stuff, then like once it gets, if it's like a longer game, and then like we reach our gold before like we win or anything, like our max gold, and we have all our items, like, what's the point then?
Okay, so you can pause. I can explain.
Yeah.
So first of all, that doesn't happen very often. Even if 1,000 gold per minute is considered like extremely good, like extraordinarily good. Elder spawns at 18 minutes, which means if you have 1,000 gold per minute, you have 18,000 gold. I don't know the exact numbers, but 18,000 gold is roughly what it takes to get your full build. So even if you're 1,000 gold per minute, which is what the best jungler players in the world have, even like some of them don't, you're not going to reach your full build until Elder, which then Elder usually ends the game, right? Like most of the time. So
yeah,
that already doesn't matter because it's not going to happen very often. But even in the scenario where it does happen, as if you get full builds way faster than the enemy, it's way easier to kill them, obviously. Like, that's a very straightforward point. So once you get full build, all you do is you farm your blue buff and your red buff. You no longer farm anything else because now your teammates can farm those camps. So your teammates now get gold because of that. So already you reaching that is good because your teammates can. You can maybe type in chat, you can farm my camps, whatever. Also, then we're full build when the enemy aren't full build, so then we can start killing them way easier. We can now start looking to invade them, look to make more aggressive plays, look to roam, look to fight, look to help our team hover more, because we have that luxury because we don't need to farm more. So basically, farming first allows you to then have the luxury later on in the game, which is more important because the later in the game is the time where you want to be fighting more, because then if you kill someone, you can get a Baron, you can get an Elder, there's more important things to fight over. So by farming first, farming earlier in the game when the game can't possibly be ended, even if your teammates make a mistake and die, you then have the luxury later on in the game of being able to forego some farm in order to fight over more important objectives without losing out on anything. So you can start the replay again. I assume that made sense. If it didn't, you can ask more questions.
That's good.
And also, it's the same reason again. I told you to fight that Baron once you hit your 4th item. You just had barely enough gold for Mortal Reminder. You're already guaranteed, like, you're not going to get any more strong than Mortal Reminder at that point because that was your 4th item, and you were 3,000 gold away from 5th item. So you're never going to get the 5th item by the time that Elder spawns because it was about to spawn. So, like, it makes more sense to fight. We don't care about any more farm because we're essentially as strong as we're possibly going to get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing here in this game. Your team was fighting. I told you no, go for the objective. Your team's going to do a dumb fight. And then we kind of overstayed here. We didn't need to fight. We could have just left after and gone for that bot wave that we were talking about. Because, again, that's the gold that we care about. We're already ahead so much gold, so even if our team does die, it doesn't matter because we're going to be still way stronger, even if our team dies, because we're going to be continuing to get our gold lead through camps, through other things. Instead, we end up dying here because we try to take the fight. So, again, it's a very straightforward process. Don't fight unless there's something to fight over. So even in this scenario, we could have fought earlier before that dragon, like right when the dragon was spawning. You could have been in a mid bush or hovering around mid lane and looking for a fight in order to get the dragon afterwards, and that would have been fine. But because you were so far away from your team when they were fighting, it made more sense to just go for the dragon at that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And also, you're saying, yeah, every time I say, does that make sense? If it doesn't actually make sense, tell me. It's okay to ask questions.
No, it does make sense.
Cool, I'm just making sure. I'm not, yeah. But, and also, obviously, the video's back, so you can always watch it back. And you can also DM me anytime questions, and I'll respond usually within less than a day. Usually an hour less, but...
But the thing is, like, if it's too late for you to upload, like, I could try and, like, record it on my
It's
own
not
time.
laggy,
And send it
the
to you,
replay's
so-
fine.
Okay. Because, like, I would like you to post it so I could, like, rewatch it with all your comments and stuff.
Yeah, the replay, I will post this replay. I'm not going to post the live gameplay because that was laggy, but I'll post me talking
Yeah.
about the replay. Which, in the
Okay.
replay, I'm talking mostly about the mistakes you made. So here again, this is a time where we actually want to be fighting because there's a Baron about to spawn. So this is the time where we want to be helping our team, which is why we told you go for this, and then we end up trying to hover to see if we can help our team. It was kind of laggy, so this fight ends up being like weird. Again, I think if it's not laggy, weird stuff's not going to happen. It ends up being kind of laggy, and you have to leave the fight. That's again, we're not worried about the lag or the specific things that happen in this game. We're worried about the general things we can improve on, and that is when there's an objective like a Baron spawning and our team is fighting, we actually have to be there, whereas when there isn't an objective, we don't have to be there. So here we should have been there quicker to help with our team, and then it would have been better for the fight. But it is what it is. Either way, we lose that fight, but they're not on the Baron, and so we don't have to worry, and you go clear this top side, which is good, and then you can farm now, and we're perfectly in an okay spot. But yeah, again, like, I'm not trying to, like, point this out too much, but you told me you think it's your teammate's fault. It's not your teammate's fault. You're the problem. I'm just, like, the only reason I'm saying this is hopefully it helps you, like, understand there's a lot we can work on, and we don't need to, like, be blaming our teammates so much. We can get better, and, you know, I'm just pointing that out. I'm not trying to be, like, a dick about it, but and that flash, that was a lag thing again, I think. That's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can just recall here because I think we had Sunderer at this point. So we recall, and then we're on a very strong power spike. That's another thing. When you back and say you just like here, you have no camps up, and you just backed on an item and you're very strong. This is a good time to look to force a fight. So we see that his blue buff is spawning in 14 seconds. It makes a lot of sense to try to invade his blue buff because we just got an item. So if they fight us for it, as long as our team is somewhat nearby, we can easily win a fight for blue buff, and we'd probably get a Baron after if they do end up fighting us. And if they don't fight us, then we just get a blue buff for free, which is obviously like another thing. Don't invade too much when you don't have priority or when you're not winning like this, because then you're gonna die. But when you do invade, it's essentially worth double the gold, because not only are you getting the gold, you're denying the gold from the enemy. Whereas when you find when you get your gold, you're only obviously getting that gold. Like you're not denying it from anyone. And then it's good though. You're in an aggressive spot. You're able to just snowball and win the fight pretty easily because you're already really strong. I was kind of worried you couldn't kill him, so yeah, we told you to back off. Like, it looked like you were gonna go in on him, so that's another thing. Like, be patient. You don't need to make these crazy plays.
Yeah, I was telling you to go on him.
Yeah, and objective is also spawning soon, the dragon, and because we have 2 dragons, this is important because of the soul. So like, if we're at 2 dragons, we really care about the 3rd dragon. And so I think I told you that you could start the Baron here because 3 of them were dead, and we should get a free Baron, but your team didn't really help, so then we kind of have to realize we see Aatrox, we need to get off, and that's fine. But you overstay a bit too much. It is what it is. Now you try to go for a top camp, and the reason this is really bad is because we want the soul really badly because it's the 3rd dragon. Soul is actually useful, and it has 10 seconds to spawn, and instead you go and you waste time, and now you see how it has spawned. And okay, if we're in a challenger lobby right now, their Lee Sin would be on the dragon right now, and he would take it before you were able to get there. Since you're against bad players, it doesn't happen, but a good player would have already taken this from you, and then you would be screwed. You wouldn't get the soul. Another general thing about dragons suck. Like, an individual dragon is awful. So if you have 1 dragon and they have 1 dragon, the 3rd dragon does not matter, and the only use for it is to force a fight when you're winning. So if you're losing a game and each team has a dragon, don't fight the 3rd dragon unless your team like forces it. But like, don't try to get it yourself because it doesn't actually matter. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. And then another thing
Could the Lee Sin have taken it though?
What was that?
Could the Lee Sin have taken it like that quickly, even though Severe was there?
He could have taken it if like one of his teammates was aware, which like in a higher elo lobby, his teammates would also be there helping him at this point. Like, they wouldn't be doing whatever they were doing. So like, by himself, he wouldn't have had enough time to take it. Sivir would have been able to like at least stall. but none of like everything that happened in this scenario wouldn't have happened in a high elo lobby. It would have been taken way quicker.
Yeah.
Everything would have been different, which is kind of why I'm pointing that out. But another thing that we talked about in your game that I'm just going to reiterate right now is that you're ulting really early in fights, where like then you end up not even going in and you're not able to get any value out of your ult. So just like be a bit more patient with your ult and actually ult once you have a good opportunity to go in. But yeah, again, we're just farming. Now Elder is like the next goal. We just got the soul. Now we just care about Elder, and also smite to last hit. You smited here earlier. Just smite to last hit the camps. Just make that a habit. Stop smiting like at like 3k. 4K
I used
health.
to always do that, and
Yeah,
then
that's
I don't
fine. Not a big thing. Just make it a habit. All good. And I think here we're like 200 gold for Mortal Reminder, so we're really looking for the next mid wave, which I tell you to go to the mid wave here. And so if you were
Yeah.
like less scared, you could have gone on this mid wave quicker and taken it. Not the end of the world, but then we would have gotten Mortal. We would have backed for Mortal at least before Elder spawns, and then we wouldn't need to farm more because Mortal would be the strongest point that we can get to before the Elder, since it's spawning in a minute and 20 seconds. So,
Yeah.
which that's why you're on this camp. Your team is fighting, so we kind of like have to like go help them. But you go to red, and I'm telling you, no, go fight where you were trying to go for the red. And this is the thing I was talking about earlier in the game. This is when I was telling you, you have to fight because there's a Baron to fight over. You can't have the luxury of farming anymore because there's an actual objective that matters that would die if your team all dies there. So you were too focused on farming when there's an actual objective that's important that could lose you the game if you get it. Whereas earlier on in the game, this is not a possibility. Another problem, you start this, the reality is you only killed one of them. Now you killed two, but before you'd only killed one. Their jungler is still alive, and the Elder Dragon is spawning in 40 seconds. So say that you lost that flip on that Baron, or they killed you on the Baron, you would have lost the game because they get Elder and then you lose. And when you're really ahead, we don't want to take stupid 50-50 flips when their jungler is alive, but we want to focus on forcing a fight and killing them and then getting the objective afterwards. Which is the same thing that happens here. You end up trying to force the flip. But I tell you, no, stop flipping it. Focus on fighting this Lee Sin so that we can win the fight, rather than being worried about the objective. So basically never, when you're winning, never flip. You know what I mean when I say flip, right? Like you're trying to
Like,
outsmite their jungler, basically.
yeah.
So like never flip it when their jungler is alive and you're winning. The only time you want to flip is when you're losing, because in that scenario, since you're losing, you'd rather take a 50-50 flip on the smite and hope you hit the smite because you're already losing, so you're probably going to lose the game anyway. But here you are winning the game, so we'd rather fight when we're stronger anyways, rather than them possibly stealing the Elder from us and then we lose the game off of that Elder steal, you know?
Yeah.
And so now we're just kind of being patient. That's it. Pause real quick. Pause real quick. Pause the replay. Okay, so you were asking me during the game, what should I be doing when we're just sitting here, you know, just jacking off, doing nothing, basically. And in a situation like this where the objective is up, but you're too scared to fight it, or to like start it because we don't want their jungler to steal it, you want to play around waves because then you force them to go to the waves and respond, or else you can end the game, and then you have earlier access to the objective. So in this scenario, instead of hovering where you're hovering, you should be hovering near the mid wave and then slowly pushing the mid wave so that it pressures their mid tower. That causes them to have to go respond to the mid wave. Then you get control of the bushes around the dragon and the mid wave, which means you either can pressure and end on the game, or you can pressure the objective because they won't have vision on the objective, and then you can kill them when they come in and face check you in the bush. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna watch it actually kind of happen, so you can start the replay again. And this scenario sort of plays itself out because I'm kind of telling you like go towards the mid side, and so you end up hovering towards mid. You see you're ending up forcing them towards here, and now you're forcing a fight around mid where they have to come into you now because you have control over this because your team is stronger. And so now they're being pushed back, and you either can force a fight here like you end up doing because they end up overextending, or you can just go back towards the Elder and hover the Elder, and then they'll have to come into you by going into a bush, and you'll just have like the easy, you know, free kill on them if you're just patient enough. And so again, they end up killing themselves, we end up killing them, and we win. So that's so great. And yeah, we don't really need to watch the rest of this since we kind of see what happens. I'm just going to talk through all of the things that we talked about, or the most important things. A couple things to keep in mind. When you're trying to get better at the game, I don't want you focusing on 20 different things at one time, because that's too much. It's going to overload your brain, and you're not going to be able to focus or build any specific habits because you're going to spread yourself too thin. So I want you to choose about 2 or 3 things from these notes that I send you that are applicable at different points of the game. So say choose one thing that is more of an early game focus, one thing that's more something you can do before the game, and one thing that applies to later parts of the game. And you're going to focus on those 2 to 3 things. Go into every game thinking about these 2 to 3 things. Try to do them, try to get really good at them, and then once you feel like you've built them as a habit where you're actually really good at them, you can then go into future games and focus on the next couple points that I talked to you about. And basically how you're going to choose what you focus on first is what's the highest in priority. So what's the most important? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we'll start writing it out. Champion pool, going to be the first thing we talk about, as it's the first thing that we spoke about. Play, Driven, Viego, right? These are the 3 we chose.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get Virgo. I hit sod correct, but if you don't stick to these, there's already a huge problem. I know you said like you get bored. If you get bored, just accept you're gonna climb less and have fun. The game's still about fun, but I'm here to coach you on how to get better. So I'm gonna obviously give you advice that's actually gonna help you like win more games. So if you focus on these 3 champions, you're gonna do a lot better. And if you get bored, you can eventually rotate 1 or 2 out based on the meta or based on what you feel like playing. You know, maybe you feel like playing Lilia later, switch out Viego for Lilia or whatever you feel like doing. But generally focus on the champion pool thing. And that's one of those things you can focus on outside of the game. It's not something that happens in the game. You focus on that before the game. Next thing is planning pathing. This is also something that we do before the game. So I only want you to focus on, the champion pool thing is not really something you have to actively focus on. So we can also think about the planning pathing part. And this is, first of all, I spoke about the red side, like starting red buff. I don't know how you felt about it, but starting red buff instead of starting Krugs. Again, this isn't a huge deal. If you feel like starting Krugs, you can do that, but it's my opinion. And then, as well, pathing towards lanes who have good gank setup. Pathing towards winning lanes who have good gank setup. So, do you know what I mean when I say good gank setup?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you mean?
So, do you know what a gank is?
Yeah.
Okay, so a good gank setup would be like a champion with CC, right? Crowd control, who can stun someone, they can knock them back, they can basically help you with the gank. So Set can ult someone, backwards. He can flash and then ult them backwards, and that allows you to kill them easier. Malphite can ult someone so that you can more easily gank them. Garen doesn't really have any of that. He has a silence, but he doesn't have anything to make your gank much easier. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So champions like Maokai, like Malphite, like Set, these are champs we prefer to path towards versus a Garen or versus a Kayle or stuff like that, just generally speaking. And then path to winning lanes, typically path towards lanes who have better matchups. So Renekton is good early game, Jace is good early game, Set's pretty good early game. Champs like this we'd prefer to path towards. Again, if in terms of ACs, stuff like Varus, stuff like Lucian, stuff like Caitlyn, these champs often win lane. Pathing towards the champions who are more often going to win lane is going to give us a better chance of winning. And do you understand what I mean when I say pathing towards, or no?
Yeah, like just farming towards them.
Yeah, so if, say, our bottom side of the map is the lane we decide we want to path towards, that means we would start clearing on the top side, right? Because we're going to get to the bot side by the time we hit level 5. So that makes sense?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, now going into more of the gameplay portion of things, because those first 2 things were more about planning before the game and everything like that. So gold per minute needs to be higher. Farm camps first, then fight. I think you understand, we spoke about that a lot, right? You need to be farming your camps and then fighting, because I explained all the reasons why it's valuable. That's the number 1 thing I want you to keep in mind initially when you're playing these future games is this. And then the times where it's important to fight is when an objective is spawning within the next 30 seconds. Because at this point, if you kill someone, then they can't fight the objective. If you pressure them away, then you have prio over the objective, stuff like that. So the times where you want to forego the farming is going to be when an objective is spawning soon, which again, I think you understand that as well, because we spoke about that a lot. So yeah, now, again, that makes sense, right? Okay, so going into the next point, let's think what else it was we talked about. Smite your can't, just smite to last hit. That's more of a small note, but smite to last hit. Does that make sense if I just type it out like that? You'll understand what I mean. Okay, what else? What else? What else? These were a lot of the main points that we spoke about, but I'm trying to think about other smaller things. Full clear your first on your first clear. You know what I mean when I say full clear?
Yeah, but well, like in one of your videos, you're talking about like clearing right side and then going to scuttle. But like,
Yeah.
how do you want to
So
order
that
that?
was an older video. That was a different way that I played the game in that point, and there were a couple of reasons for why I played that way. So first of all, I was playing a lot of Xin Zhao and Camille at that time. Xin Zhao and Camille have very slow clear speeds, especially Camille. And so I would finish my first 3 camps by about 110, 111, and then I would go to Scuttle because I'd pretty much just get there by the time Scuttle's going to spawn. In hindsight, that was not a great idea in a majority of games, and full clearing is a more consistent way of playing that keeps my gold per minute higher. So that was a incorrect assumption that I had previously that I've since learned from and has made me a better jungler. So yes, it is something I spoke about, and as anyone, like, I still learn and make mistakes and everything. And so I now believe that full clearing is usually going to be more effective because of the thing I spoke about earlier with the longer that camp is alive, the longer it takes for the next one to spawn. And therefore you're missing out on gold just by it existing. So I no longer really agree with that by saying it in a future video or a former video. So now I would focus more on the full clear and then the scuttle. And the only exception as well is Viego. If you do red side first and then blue side, if you clear 5 camps, so you just don't clear the Gromp, you'll be at about 128, 129 if you do it properly. And you'll be level 4, and I would go for Scuttle, and then I would go for Gromp in that type of pathing with him, for the simple fact that you're going to be level 4, and usually if someone's contesting you, they're level 3, so you can win the fight early as Viego there. But that's a more specific niche scenario, so that's just something to keep in mind as well.
Which camp do you skip for that then?
You skip Gromp.
Okay.
And if you start, no, I slightly misspoke. On Viego, I start Krugs because of that reason. Because of the reason that you can get there at like 125. So I actually start Krugs on Viego, despite the reason that I start red for other champs. But for Viego, I start Krugs because then you can be level 4 on that, like I spoke about, if you skip Gromp. So that's why I start Krugs on Viego, but red's still fine to start too. Either way, I think that point makes sense then.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see, what else? These are, again, like the main things. I'm trying to think about any more specific things we spoke about. I went over a lot of the smaller details in the replay, which you can watch back, but was there anything else you can think of that we mentioned or talked about?
Not really.
Alright, I'm gonna spend like a minute thinking, and then if there's nothing else, I
guess just
Bill
like
as well.
just dealing with objectives.
Oh right, yes. This is true. So do not. I hate those. Okay. Win ahead. If I type "don't flip," does that make sense to you, or should I?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Don't flip objectives. Don't flip major objectives.